Begin the current Daf Mesech Yevamos Daf begin 14 lines down at the top of the Yomid, where the Gemara continues to explain the halacha of our opening Mishnah in this parak Revi regarding if someone has a Yevama, Shemeres Yavim, and turns out she's Muberes, and the Sefer was told about if it was kindness, if he went and married her, he did Bia, and turns out she's Muberes. So the Mishnah says that, we're not sure if the child is from the first one or from the second one, and therefore you have to bring Asham Toli. The Gemara explains that halacha. She corresponds to Bekaz of Mecheskol, Toini, Tam Dafachem, Pishon Tun to Today's Daf, Shpil Il Nishmas, Asher ben Avram Yaakov, Shpil Il Nishma, and also for Shalem of the Pentas. So some of the things we discussed in today's Daf are Asham Toli, which is the carbon that's brought a suspended asham when we're not sure about if someone sinned or not. Where a person would bring a chatzas to be defended, but if he doesn't know, he brings asham tali. Pasuk said, "L'yovi mamzer b'kal Hashem." The mamzer should not come into the kehillah of Hashem. So machlik is exactly what is categorized as kahal Hashem, not to let a mamzer come in. Mishnah's Rabbi Eliezer ben Yaakov Kavanaki is that Rabbi Eliezer ben Yaakov, generally we try to rule like him because his teachings are very few and they're pure. Mitzvah is the halacha that when someone's trying to collect from someone else, the onus of proof is on him. So begin the card Daf Lamed Zayin, 14 lines down at the top of the Yomid, where the Mishnah says, Safik ben Tisha b'chul. We said, if let's say this woman turns out that she's pregnant, now we're not sure if the child was from the first husband, but it was from 9 months, or from the second husband, from 7 months, because they got married within the first 3 months of when she was widowed from her husband. And now the brother-in-law went and did Yibum. So, on the one hand, it could be that the halacha, the Mishnah said Yoitzi, because it could be Esha actually so the Mishnah said that the child is going to be Kashim Mamshach, but they are Chayim and Asham Tola because of a suffix. And the suffix is maybe it's a Eshasach, and maybe it's not Eshasach. So the Gemara asks and says, wait a second. Amalei Roda of Nachman. It says, why don't you go after the majority of women? But the Tisha Yodim. Most women give birth after a full term of 9 months. And therefore, as Rashi explains, why he's saying that Chayav Asham Tali, they should have to bring a chatas, because most definitely this child, we're assuming based on laws of majority of Raib, is a child of the first husband, and therefore they had a relationship with an Eishazach. So why are you saying it's Asham Talik? We're not sure. We should know based on Raib. It's like definitive. Should be Chayav Chatas. So on that, Rav Nachman responded. He says, "Nashi didan l'shabayil." Our women, they give birth to after 7 months, and therefore it could have been from the second husband. So on that, Rabbi said to him, "What, your women are the majority of the world? We don't go after your women. If it happens to be that your women give birth after 7 months, they always have preemies. That doesn't mean to say that we're going to go with the laws of majority. Majority tell us based on the majority of the world." Somebody said to him, "No, Hachikamin." He says, "I had a more of a Lamdasha answer." He says, "This is what I was telling you. Roiv Nashim, most women, Yoldan Latisha, they give birth after 9 months. You're right. But Umiyat Lashiva, there's a minority that gives birth after 7 months. As we said in Talmudic times, it was either a 7-month term or a 9-month baby. It was one of those two. So you're right, the majority are after 9 months. But, all those that give birth after 9 months, the fetus is recognizable after the first trimester, after a third of her pregnancy, which, as the pasuk says in Bereish Lamed by Tamar, how did they know that she was mazan? It says, "It 3 months later, and boom, she has a belly sticking out. How she had babies? She was obviously mazan, and they were taken out to be killed now. Now this woman, since the fetus was not recognizable a third into the pregnancy, because as Rashi says, if it was recognizable, then we would not have had a suffix. We would have known for sure that it's from the first one. We would have known and said that, right? So obviously here that it was not recognizable a third in, to Israel Ruba. So therefore that is a flaw in the majority, that you should not say she's the majority of the women. Rather, now we're back to the suffix. Maybe it would be part of the minority of the 7-month baby. Maybe it's part of the majority. Maybe a 9-month. Because again, you should have seen the baby at the end of the first trimester, and you didn't. Because if you did, then what's the suffix? We know that it's from the first husband, from the husband who died. The fact that you didn't see this, okay. So this is a reyes in the roiv, and therefore we can't just go based on the majority. We're really back to a equal doubt of maybe it's from the minority. But the Gemara says, wait a second. Your wording was kol hayuledes. Now my question is the other way around. I was first asking you should be chayv achatzis, not asham taloi, but kol hayuledes letitia. But if you tell me every woman who gives birth after 9 months, the fetus is recognizable after the first trimester. You could see the pregnant woman being pregnant. So this woman that is not recognizable after the first trimester. So then the question is the other way around. They shouldn't even be chayv asham taloi because most definitely it is from the second husband. Because if it was from the first husband, you told me when the woman goes full term of 9 months, then you could see this on the woman after 3 months, and you didn't see it. So that is not only saying that, oh, now it's a suffix. No, definitively you weren't from the first husband, it was from the second husband. So the Gemara amends it and says, no, it's like this. Most of the women that give birth after 9 months, most of them you see the fetus after 3 months. Here, where you didn't recognize it after 3 months, so it's a flaw in the right, but it's not definitively either way. It's just that you can't go based on majority, because based on majority, you would say that it would be from the first husband. But a flaw in that right, not definitive the other way, is that, okay, but most women who have a 9-month baby, you could see the fetus, you could see the woman pregnant for 3 months, and here we didn't see the bump. So, therefore, that's a flaw in the majority, and therefore that's why we say, okay, we're not sure if it's from the first husband or from the second husband. Therefore, it's Michai B'Hasham Tal. Now, continue on this case of we're saying that the child is going to be, what we said is the first child is kosher mimanav shach. So that's what we continue when we speak about what happens if they have other children. Talking about in the Brisa, Rishon, we mentioned that we said that the first son is a suffix. We said we're not sure if it's 7 months from the second husband. Is it 9 months from the first husband? We said either way, Rolly's Kohen Gadol, he's appropriate. He could even be the high priest, but Manavshach, because he's either from the first husband, the second husband. There's no sin that he was committed with this child. If it's from the first husband, so you're right, it's a Eishashach, but he was born from the first husband. And if it's from the second husband, well then there was not Eishashach because it was not from the first husband. So this first son of Manavshach from that union he's fit to be a Kohen Gadol. But now, if Shani, if let's say they stayed married, this suffix Eishes Ach, and if he stays until they have a second son, which is for sure from the second husband, he's a mamzer misafik. He's a doubtful mamzer because maybe the first son was this 9-month baby from the first husband, from the one who died. Therefore, she had a child from the first husband. So she's punishable for karas for her current husband as Eishes Ach. So it comes out that the second son is a child of Chiva Krisis, and therefore that would make him into a mamzer. So he's a mamzer misafik. Les Yaakov says, no, ain't mamzer misafik. No, he's not a mamzer misafik. My comment says the Gemara, what's Les Yaakov saying? What would remove him from the suffix mamzer? Definitely we're not sure if this woman is Eishes Ach. So my Bible says, I'll explain to you what this means. Rishon ro lias Kohen Gadol. That we said. First one is fit to be even a high priest. He's kosher b'manav. V'sheni suffix mamzer, and the second one is a suffix mamzer, and therefore v'asa b'mamzeres. Therefore, he's forbidden to marry a mamzeres and a kosher because you might be a kosher, which is forbidden in a mamzeres. You might be a mamzer, which is forbidden in a ksher. That's what the Tanakh was saying. Rabbi Shloimy Schwartzberg, he was saying, no, ain't a suffix mamzer. When he says not suffix mamzer, it wasn't to say like, oh, he's not, how could you say it's not suffix mamzer? He meant to say the other way around. Elavadai, rather he's like a vade mamzer. Means not a vade mamzer, but he's like a vade mamzer, and that is umutta b'mamzeres. And then he's permitted to marry a mamzeres, a woman that's from an illegitimate union, because he holds, as we're going to explain, svekid b'vadoin mutter. A suffix mamzer is permitted to marry a definitive mamzer. So that's what he meant, that the second one's not a suffix mamzer. Not to say that because he's for sure kosher. No, to the contrary. We treat him like a vade mamzer, and he's permitted to marry a mamzeres. That's how Abaye translates this machlekes. Now, but Rav Amar, he says the opposite. He says hachakama. He says that this is what the Tanakh was saying. Rishon Roli is Kohen Gadol. The first one's fit to be a Kohen Gadol. V'sheni mamzer vadai misafik. although the words of the Tanakhama was that the second one is a mamzer misafik, he translates it to me and will explain why each one says it the way they say it. The second one is a definitive mamzer from the doubt. Meaning because of the safik mamzeris, we treat him like a vadi mamzer, and therefore mutter b'mamzeres. Therefore that's what he's explained. The Tanakhama holds that it's permitted in a mamzer, in a mamzeres. Rabbi Shloimy Schwartzberg says no, ain't vadi mamzer misafik. We don't say that he's considered definitive mamzer because of a doubt. Safik mamzer, there's only safik mamzer, and therefore actually the asr mamzeres is forbidden mamzeres because you might be a kosher, so you can't marry mamzer. Mamzer now come b'kal Hashem, as we're going to explain right now. So what's the machlekes? The Kamiflagi says the Gemara, the machlekes Abaye and Rava, that one is explaining Rabbi Eliezer ben Yaakov as saying that it's going to be mutter. Another one explaining that is going to be asr, which essentially they invert. Everyone agrees the second child is a safek mamzer. The question is Rabbi Eliezer ben Yaakov the one who's saying that it's like a definitive mamzer and it's permitted to marry mamzeres? Or is he considered like, no, not a definitive mamzer, never a forbidden mamzeres? That's a machlekes b'di Rabbi Eliezer. What's this machlekes in Rabbi Eliezer? Okay, because it's not. We learned the Mishnah Masechet Kedushin. Rabbi Eliezer, he says that vadoin bevadoin says that a definitive mamzer with another definitive mamzer is mutter. They're allowed to marry because none of them is b'kal Hashem. But vadoin besveika, a vade mamzer with a safek mamzer, usvakim bevadoin or safek with a vade, which is either the male or the female. Usveikim besveikin or safek mamzer with a safek mamzeres are usher, they're forbidden. As Rashi explains, when you have a vade mamzer and the safek mamzer is forbidden because maybe the safek is a kosher, it comes out that the mamzer is coming b'kal Hashem with that kosher. So too, a safek mamzer with a safek mamzeres, maybe she's puzzle, maybe he's puzzle and she's kosher. So one of them is going to be coming b'kal Hashem. So never know. A safek with a safek or a safek with a vade with a safek says Rabbi Eliezer that's forbidden. And the Elohein sveiken. What are considered situations of if you're a doubtful mamzer? So that's what's called shtuki. The shtuki is from the word of shasoik, of be quiet. Where he calls Tati and his mother says, shh, quiet, because we don't know who your father is. Or vasufi is when he's, the word of gathered. He's gathered from the street, where we don't know who the parents are, where very likely it's from illegitimate union. And all these you have to be concerned that maybe it's from, she became pregnant from someone that's puzzled. And vakuti. The Kuti were the Kuthians. They were a group that were brought by the Syrian king to take the place of the 10 tribes who were chased out, who they were in particular regarding the Kedushin of Kesef and Shtar. They didn't hold that's Kedushin, because they didn't hold the Gzer Shav of Kicha that was seen in the beginning of Masechtas Kedushin. So when one of them would get engaged with, let's say, Kesef or Shtar, the other one would marry her without a get, because they didn't hold that was considered Kedushin. So therefore all of them are Safek Mamzerim, because maybe really the mother was engaged to someone else who gave her a beautiful ring or something like that, and they don't hold her that. They don't hold her to a bia. And therefore, all these groups, Shtuki, Asufi, Kuti, they're all considered as Safek Mamzer. Now, Amar Rav Yehuda, he says, the Amar Rav says, Halacha Rabbi Eliezer. Halacha is like Rabbi Eliezer. That's what Rav said. Now, Rabbi Yehuda finishes his statement, and he says, however, Ki Amrita, when I said this teaching that Rav says Halacha is like Rabbi Eliezer, Kamei de Shmuel, Amali, he said to me, how can you say this? Hil Shana, Hil taught a Brisa. Asara Yuchsin Olam Ebav. There were 10 genealogical purified yichus that came up from Bavel, meaning when they came up from the diaspora to Eretz Yisrael in times of the second Beis Hamikdash, they brought up Kahani, Levi, Yisraeli. That's we know Kam Levi Yisraeli. They had Chalali, which is a Chalala, which was born from that which is a psul regarding Kahuna. For example, let's say the daughter of Amana to Kohen Gadol, or Grusha to a Kohen Hedjid, or let's say to become desecrated from Kahuna by having bia with one of the psulim to Kahuna, and Gede, which are converts, Charude, which is a slave that was freed, Mamzere, which are Mamzerim from an illegitimate union, the Sine, which that's the Gevonim, which were circumcised in the days of Yeshua, which the Gemara in Yevamos Daf says that David decreed on them that since they converted in with trickery in the days of Yeshua, that they have a certain inferior status. Shatuki, which we mentioned that doesn't know who the father is, Vasubi, we don't know who any of the parents are. And says Hill, and all of them are permitted to intermarry with each other. So, as Rashi explains, if you're going to say that Sveikon bevadoin is mutter, or Safik mamzer is permitted in the Vadi mamzer, and for sure Safik in the Safik. So we could have all these cases that Hill said, that the Mutarans have said. First you have Kahan Levim Yisraelim, they're permitted to intermarry. You have Levim Yisraelim and Chalalim and Geirim and Charodim and which are Avadim and Shachrarim, they're permitted to intermarry one with the other. And then you could have the final group, the category of Geirim, freed slaves, Mamzerim, the Sid Mishtuka Sufi, they're permitted to intermarry. Why? Because although Geirim are regular Jews, but Kahal Geirim L'Ikri Kahal, as the Gemara says in Kedushin Avayin Gimel. Slip and Mamzerim are permitted to intermarry, as the Gemara says this in Kedushin Daf Samach Tes. So the problem is, but V'at Amrit, you say that Rav Halacha Rebbe Lazar, Halacha is like Rebbe Lazar, who holds that a mamzer is not permitted to marry a shtuki, and even a shtuki cannot marry a shtuki, and a shtuki cannot marry a sufi because it's a safek and a safek. That safek might be kosher, that safek might be puzzle. So how can you say that the halacha is like Rebbe Lazar, who holds that the Badoim, the Svik, and Sigma Badoim, Sigma Sigma, and Sigma Aser, when it said, when Hill told us that all these are maternal Bezeh, which obviously a shtuki is permitted in a sufi and a shtuki, and obviously a halacha is not like Rebbe Lazar. Okay, but that's only half of the equation. So that's what the Gemara concludes and says like this. Abaya, remember, we're going back to what we said in our Gemara. We had a machlekes between Rabbi Eliezer ben Yaakov and the Tanakama regarding a safek mamzer, the second child of this marriage, which they were disagreeing regarding these ambiguous words of Rabbi Eliezer ben Yaakov that says a mamzer b'safek. What did he mean a mamzer b'safek? That we're not going to treat him as a definitive, or we're not going to treat him as a safek, and we're going to treat him as definitive, meaning the opposites. They had a machlekes regarding Tanakama and Yaakov. Who's the one that's saying that we treat this safek mamzer as vadai or as safek? Why did Abai and Rabbi have this machlekes? Because they had this machlekes in Shmuel and Rab, as the Gemara explains. Abai, Sabalok Shmuel, he had like Shmuel that held that like Hillel, that a safek is permitted in a vadai. Oh, the Amalach Hillel says Allah is like Hillel. Therefore, Mukila Rabbi Eliezer ben Yaakov, leave the Hilchos says he wanted to explain Rabbi Eliezer ben Yaakov like the halachic opinion, which is like Hill. That we shouldn't ask, how do we paskin like Rabbi Eliezer ben Yaakov, if you're saying that the halacha is like Hill, that holds safek bevadei and vadei b'safek is going to be mutter. So he had to explain Rabbi Eliezer ben Yaakov, I'll leave it the Hilchasa, which is what he wanted to do, which is to tell you that it's going to be mutter. So he had to translate the words that the second one's a safek mamzer, means to say a safek mamzer vadai. We're treating him like as a vadai because he wanted to make it lahalacha like the way Shmuel holds that a safek vadai is going to be mutter. Whereas Rabbi Savla Karab, Rabbi like Rav, the Amar that he says halacha is like Rebbe Lazar. That, as we said, he holds that safek bevadim and safek besafek is going to be aser. Therefore, Mukila Rabbi Eliezer ben Yaakov, he wants to explain Rabbi Eliezer ben Yaakov according to the halacha, which again Rav holds is like Rabbi Eliezer, which is safek mamzer is forbidden in mamzeres. So he had to translate that this one's considered safek mamzer, only a safek, and not like a vada, which then makes him forbidden in a vada mamzeres. And the reason why I did it was like tiksha, so you shouldn't ask because you continue the days hilchasa, because like Rashi points out, we always rule like Rabbi Eliezer ben Yaakov, who, as the Gemara tells us, his teachings are very, very few, but they're pure, they're totally refined. And then we want to say halacha like Rabbi Eliezer ben Yaakov, but what is the halacha? That's machlekes Rav and Shmuel, and Abaya and Rava would disagree in machlekes Rav and Shmuel, which is the same machlekes Rabbi Eliezer and Hill. So again, really, if you just want to give mind, there's 3 layers of machlekes. It's machlekes of Rabbi Eliezer and Hill. Rabbi Eliezer says vadoin bevadoin is mutter, but vadoin is fake, and tzvikim bevadoin, tzvikim bevadoin is going to be aser. Hill says no. Obviously, he says kul mutav lam bezeh shtuki nasufi, and obviously with Gerim, obviously he holds that as the Gemara holds that only kahal vadai but like kahal safek, meaning Yevamos Daf is only by a definitive kehila, not by a safek kehila. And therefore, there's no isser of the mamzer or mamzeres to marry the safek mamzer. We rather treat him like a vadai, and therefore they're all permitted. This machlekes Rabbi Eliezer and Hill was the same machlekes between Rav and Shmuel. Rav was saying like Rabbi Eliezer, Shmuel was saying like Hillel, and therefore he was saying safek mamzer is asur mamzer, and safek mamzer he was saying mut mamzer, and therefore that's the machlekes Abai and Rava. Rav held like Rav that says a love like Elazar, and then he wanted to explain Elazar ben Yaakov the Hilchasa. So then we had to explain that the case of the suffix was that it's going to be a suffix, and because the suffix is asim mamzeres, whereas Shmuel held like hill, and suffix mamzeres is mutam mamzeres. Abai held like Shmuel that says it looks like hill. So then he explained Elazar ben Yaakov according to the halacha, which was saying that no, that this is a suffix mamzer like a vadai, and therefore that's what's going to be mutter with a vadai. Mamzer. And again, they did this so there shouldn't be difficult because we possibly was a Yaakov. And therefore, each one has to show to explain that opinion like the halachic opinion. Now, Abai says, not minallah. He says, where do I know this? That the halacha is like me. The chol sveika. That every suffix, Elazar ben Yaakov, who we're disagreeing about, what his opinion was, how to translate his words, that he says the second one is the words of Elazar ben Yaakov was, that he said, that ain't a suffix mamzer, right? And he says that ein mamzer misafik. That what does it mean ein mamzer misafik? That it means that yes, because we're not treating it like a suffix, rather we're treating it kavadi mashmalah, we're treating it like a definitive mamzer. Because again, Abaye held like the halacha of those who hold that it's like Shmuel that holds that it's suffix mamzer is mutter nevada. He says, how do I know this? He says the time I'll bring your raya. We learned the Brisa, Rebbe Elazar ben Yaakov Omer, the one that we're disagreeing about, what did he mean? Because they wanted to each show that the halacha is like their opinion. He says, Haresha Baal Nashim Harbe. If let's say someone had relations with many women, Ve'en Yidei Ezemen Ba, and he doesn't know which one he had relations with. Or V'chein Hi, so to the woman, Shabolda Nashim Harbe, let's say many men had relations with her. Ve'en Yidei As Me'ezemen Kibla. She doesn't know which man it is that she became pregnant from. So he says, well, Yaakov, you know what's happening now? Nimtza Avnois is beaten. We're going to have a situation where a father is going to marry his daughter. A brother is going to marry his sister. I mean, no one knows who the paternity of the child is. If a woman's having a relation with many men, or this man's having a relation with many women, so we're not going to know who is the woman that he had a relation with. And the whole world is going to be filled with illegitimate children. Oh, so Rashi says, you see that from a suffix, because we don't know, we're calling them mamzerim. So that's the raya that Abai is bringing. That Elazar ben Yaakov holds a suffix mamzer is a mamzer. We're treating it like a mamzerim. This is what the pasuk says. Vayikro malach haaretz zima. Right? Everyone's used to say malach des Hashem kemaim. No, malach zima. The world's going to be filled with immorality. So again, that's Abai's proof to show you that it's considered zima because a suffix mamzer is like a mamzer valid. But Rabbi Malach, he would tell you in the hachakam. This is what the pasuk means. When it says zima, the word zima actually means zumahi. This, what is it? To the contrary, it says, as Rashi says, lashon suffix. To the contrary, the pasuk is actually telling you that it's zima, zumahi. What is it? Meaning it's a suffix, not a vade. Not like a guy wants to bring a raya that Elazar ben Yaakov holds. That's different. So, according to Rav, it's not a raya that this Elazar ben Yaakov held. Now, but continue on this theme of the world being filled with immorality. If we're not careful to clearly define who is the father and the mother of the child, yes, like in Elazar ben Yaakov. More than this, Elazar ben Yaakov said that even over here, what does it mean yes, like even this next idea that we're going to say, where this relationship is through marriage, and it's well known, still Elazar ben Yaakov was geyser. Meaning, he says the following teaching. Halacha is, La yisa adam isha b'medina zu, a person should not marry a woman in this country, and then go to another country and marry another woman, where although biblically he's allowed to go ahead and marry two women, should not marry one woman in this country and then go in the over the Indian Ocean and go marry some other woman because Shemi is dav gizel. Because what happened is maybe that they're going to make a shidduch and they're going to pair up this boy and this girl. The brother's going to marry his sister. They're not going to know. This is some person from overseas, and they don't have a clue that this is from the same father. So even more than that, he's so concerned about the world being filled with zima that a man should not marry women in two different countries. So is that really so? But for Rav, when Rav would come visit Dardashir, they would make an announcement and they would say, Man who wants to be the woman of the day? Meaning, who wants to get married for a few days that I'm going to be here? He wanted to have a wife for the few days that he's going to be in town. So to Rav Nachman, when Rav Nachman would come to Shachan he would announce and he would say, Man who wants to be my wife for the week? Which, you see, what do you mean? But they were from a different country, different town, and they had wives over there. How are they going to get married over here? I thought you told me that you now marry women in different places because they're not going to realize who's the father, and you can have siblings getting married. Says Yevamos Daf. These stories were with rabbis. The Pekiah, where the everybody, it goes out Shemayu, their name, and everyone calls his daughter based on his name. And if his son would come from somewhere else, he's going to hear that she's the daughter of his father, and he's not going to go ahead with the shidduch. So, Yevamos Bista. Say Yevamos Bista. Oh, Bista, Ramotels. Okay. Everyone knows that this is his daughter, so we're not going to run the boundary. Right? A regular man should not do that. But for the Rebbes, for the Rosh Hashivas, this is not a problem because everyone knows who their children are. Now, but once we introduced this idea of that they used to come for the day and they would announce they wanted to get married, the Gemara has a different problem with that. Rabbi says, Tavu li nasev in the spice. If a man petitions a woman to get married and she agrees, she has to sit for 7 clean days because what's called dam chimud. Before the chasna, that maybe because of the desire, it actually causes her to menstruate, and that's the body going through a change because of this upcoming relationship, when she was appeased to go ahead in the relationship. She has to have 7 clean days. So the question is, how could this rebel come to town and say, who wants to be my wife for the week? And he picks out, some woman to be the rebbetzin for the week. You have to have a week before you even get married because of dam chimud, because you might be a nida. So how could they have come to town and say, okay, who wants to be my wife for the week? Says the Gemara, no, there's more background to the story. Rabban and the Rabbi Shluchai have meshadrin. 7 days before they came to town, Tzadik Buleir, the lights are already up for last month. They would send agents, umaydlu, they let them know that we're coming and that who wants to be the wife for the day, for the few days that the Rebbe is going to be there. But of course, it wouldn't be right when they came there because you have to be concerned with damchim. That's one pshat. V'yibay said another pshat, says the Gemara. You're right. They didn't make an announcement before they came. They came, Bahalton, he comes there. They didn't want to make a big tumult. The Rebbe's coming. No one's supposed to know about it. Dacha, and he comes there. But l'Rabbanan, the rabbis, really, all they wanted to do was they just wanted to be secluded with the woman. They don't want to be intimate. What's the point of that? Why, if he doesn't want to, so it's a what do you have your rebbetzin for? It says, Ein a well-known Talmudic dictum, Ein a you can't compare Mishesh lepas basalai, someone that has bread in his basket. The Mishesh lepas basalai doesn't have bread in his basket. So really weren't concerned about, even if she was becoming dam, chimud, weren't concerned because really he didn't want it to be intimate. He just wanted to have a companion. What's the point of the companion? So that he's not tempted elsewhere, because that's called pas basalai. When a man is married, if he needs it, it's there. Now, Toysa asked the obvious question. He says, wait a second. So you're telling me that there's pas basalai, because if he wanted to, he could have had relations. Now, so the problem that's bothering Toysa is that the manavshach. But then that's dam chimud, you have to be concerned, and then she's a nida. So how does this whole pas basali work? Tais explains that since at times the Rebbe would not, be intimate with the wife, she would just be a wife in title, and she would have, wear special the rabbinic garments for the Rebbetzin, so she wouldn't be mechamet. Because she's like, okay, who knows? The Rebbe, he always does this. He's busy with the tish till 4 o'clock in the morning. I don't even get to see him. So therefore, she doesn't see. Okay, it says if not, then it would actually be also to have yichud also. And this is what the Gemara says in the first paragraph of Subas. A chassan, if let's say, we know it's called chuppas nida, if the kala is a nida by the chasna, he sleeps with the mena and then she's with the froen. So it wouldn't help anyway. So Narvas, no, we're saying that because it's only really for you to be miyachadura and not to be together. Therefore, she's not so nischamed, and therefore we're not concerned for it in that way, and that's why it helps. Now, however, the Gemara does point out that Tanu learned that Rabbi Yaakov, the same Rabbi Yaakov says that although that here the Rebbe is coming for a week and he's getting married, but in general, a person should not marry his wife, that he intends to divorce her, which really means without her consent. Meaning, although we're saying that he can get married, the Rebbe, for the week, but a person should not get married with his intent that he's going to divorce her. Mishum Shem, because the Pasuk says in Mishlei, Al Tachrosh Al Re'echa Ra. don't plot against your friend any evil, and he's dwelling confidently with you. So basically that's what the man's doing to the woman, where he's plotting evil, but she's confidently like, getting married, this and that, and really his intent is divorce, so a person should not get married with that in mind. Now, the Gemara now goes to Yerusha in the case of our Mishnah. The case that we were discussing was Savik men Tishel Rishon, Savik men Shibla Achar. We had this situation where the man died without any children. So the Yavam comes and does Yibum, but it turns out she was pregnant. We don't know when, however. She gave birth 7 months after the Yibum, and possibly it's 9 months from the first husband, or it could be 7 months from the second husband. So the Gemara asks about various cases about this suffix, what the halacha is going to be when it comes to the laws of Yerusha. As the Gemara explains, suffix v'yavam. Let's say you have over here this child, who we're not sure whose child is he. Is he the Yavam's child, or is he the dead person's child? So you have him and the Yavam, shebo lachlik b'nichse misna. They're coming to divide the dead man's estate. As the Gemara explains, Safik Amr, the Safik is saying, Ano bar misnahu, I'm the son of the dead man. V'nichse didihu, it's all my property. The son inherits the father. Now, the Yavam is saying, no. Ad bro didia, you're my son. And then you have nothing in the estate. So it says the Gemara, this is what's called money that's placed in a situation of doubt, because, as Toisa and Rashi both allude to, none of them are muhsik one more than the other. Because if this child is really the son of the dead one, the Yavam has nothing over here. If he's the son of the Yavam, then that child has nothing. So therefore there's no moitzim mechaber all over Raya, but you can't say, you have to bring Raya. Who's the muhsik? No one's the muhsik. Each one would be the muhsik if we knew. So it's a classic mum and amot b'safik. It's doubtful money. The halacha is a mum and amot b'safik. When you have money that's placed in doubt, chalkin, they're going to split it evenly. This child is going to get half, and this yavam is going to get the other half. That's case number one. Case number two, safik. Again, this child, again, we're not sure who he was from. Was he from the first husband, the one that died, or from the second one, from the yavam? Uvenei yavam. And the sons of the yavam, Shabo lachlik b'nichsemis, meaning the Yavam already passed away. You have the sons of the Yavam with the suffix Shabo lachlik b'nichsemis. They're coming to divide the estate of the one who died. So what's the debate? So the suffix saying, who got that person being referring to himself is bar misnahu. I'm the son of the dead person, and therefore it's all my estate. It's all my money. But the Yavam, the sons of the Yavam, they're saying no. Ad achinuat. You're our brother because you're also the son of the Yavam, which is our father. You have a portion with us. So Rashi points out, in this situation, the suffix is really more muhsik. Because Mamanavshach, he has some portion over here. Because either he's the son of the dead man and he gets everything, or he's the son of the Yavam and he gets a portion like all the other brothers. But the sons of the Yavam, maybe they don't have a portion over here. Because maybe he's the son of the first one he's the son of the first one, and it's all his. So therefore, says the Gemara, so the rabbis who were in front of Mishash thought to say, masnitnihi. It's our Mishnah, which is not over here, it's a Mishnah in Perik Nisan al Nusa. It's not, they were learning the Mishnah of Kuf. The Mishnah speaks about over there, this case of a Savan who's a Safik ben Tishla Rishon. We're not sure if he's a 9-month baby from the first husband, or a Safik ben Shivla Achron, or a 7-month baby from the second husband. A different case, but the same principle. The case over there, says the Mishnah, who, the Safik, in the Yerush Isa, he does not inherit his brothers. Meaning, not the brothers from the first husband, not the brothers from the second husband. A different case. Let's say there's 2 men, and one, let's say, divorced, or widowed, whichever one it was, but then this woman got married to another husband, and this child was born literally right after that woman went to the second husband. We're not sure, did she give birth 9-month baby from the first husband or 7-month baby from the second husband? So on that we see in that Mishnah that this suffix will not inherit either one of those fathers, because the sons of the first husband reject him, saying, no, you're the son of the second husband. The sons of the second husband will say, no, you're the son of the first husband. And so he doesn't get from anyways, but but they inherit him when he dies. Between the two families, since it's a suffix, they'll both inherit over him. Now, so the rabbis wanted to say, aha, v'hacha yipcha. Here it's the inverse. Meaning, here where he's more muksik, because Hassam over there, the reason why they could reject him is because normally they tell him, okay, I see raya. Bring a proof that you're our brother, Ushkol, and then take. And therefore you can't bring a raya that you're our brother, not from the first family, not from the second family, so they push him away. So therefore they wanted to say, Hacha amalahu. Now he could tell them, this guy, this suffix, he could tell them, I see raya. You bring a proof that you're my brother. And if not, so then he could tell each one of them, meaning he could tell the sons of the Yavam that it's all mine. Because only if you bring a raya b'shkola, then you could take. That's what the rabbis in front of Ramashaj wanted to say, that just like they could push him away, now in this case he's the muhsik because it's coming from the dead man's, and I'm for sure one or the other, so I'm a muhsik and you guys are suffik, you don't know if I'm your brother, so then you guys have to bring a raya. Which Amal Ramashaj said, no, me dummy is comparable. Hassam over there in the case that you wrote from the Mishnah of Kuf, Inu Vadai. Those sons are definitive. They know who is their father, who they're coming to inherit. There's two families. Whichever one they're from, their father was their father. We know that. He was Suffolk and he was a Suffolk. But Hachi Id V'idi Suffolk here, ultimately, they're really both Suffolk. Meaning that even this Suffolk, he's not claiming a definitive claim. He doesn't know who is his father. He doesn't know who is his daddy. Is it the first one or the second one? He says, yes, the Bavadai, I'm getting something. But you're not a Vadai in the classic sense. You can't say, I'm a Vadai. You know for sure you're getting something, but you're not a Vadai, and therefore that would not be necessarily comparable. Ela Idami L'Mastit, he says, if you want to compare a case to the Mishnah over there, it would be a different case. It would be Lahodami. It would actually be, it would be comparable to a different case, which is case number 3. L'Safik U'Bnei Yavam. If you have a Safik again, this is this guy who we're not sure about, and the sons of the Yavam. Shabo Lachlik B'Nichse Yavam Gufei. Different case. Not like the same case we spoke about, they're coming to divide the estate of the dead man. They're coming to divide the estate of the Yavam himself. That's where you could compare to that Mishnah, which we said that he does not inherit them. The Hassam Amrilay, they tell him, I see right, bring a raya that you're our brother and then take. But regarding case number 2, Rashi clarifies and he says, no. In that case, when they're dividing the estate of the dead person, they're both a suffix, because although he's a vadai on some level, but he doesn't know who is his father. And therefore Rashi says, Nir be'enai, that the halacha would be that the portion that they agree to him, which Maman of Shach he's going to take. So that's because if there's 3 brothers, let's say, so he's going to get his portion as a brother, and that Monashach he's taking. Now, regarding the other parts, which, okay, the other 2 brothers are saying, I get one, he gets one, and you get a third, so that for sure he's getting a third, but the question is, now he's saying that it's all mine. All of it is mine, because I'm the son of the dead one. And they're saying, no, you only get a third, so that makes these next 2 portions, Maman Amut B'Safik, and therefore it's Cholkin, and he takes half, and they have to take half. And those 2 brothers have to divide this. So that's how Rashi says that's going to be the case number 2, that he's going to take 2/3 and they're going to split that third because this is Vadeh for him. This is they agree to this to him. He's one of the 3 brothers, but he's claiming this all his, and they're claiming this is from the brotherhood, and therefore he gets half of that, and they split that other half. That's regarding that case number 2, and we said that Rabbi Shloimy said to them, the Mishnah that you're comparing would not be comparable to case number 2, rather it would be comparable to case number 3, that yes, they could tell him, you bring a right that you're our brother, regarding because they're splitting to the Nifse of the Yavam himself, and therefore he wouldn't get anything. Case number 4, Safik U'Bnei Yavam. Again, this Safik, this guy, we don't know who his father is it the Yavam or is it the guy who died? U'Bnei Yavam, and the sons of the Yavam. Shabo Lachli B'Nichse Yavam. Again, it's similar to the previous case, but it has another variable. They're coming to divide the estate of the Yavam. Lebasar de Palag Yavam, after that the Yavam already split with this suffix, B'Nichse Misna, with the estate, in the estate of the dead brother. If you recall, the case number 1 we spoke about. We had, if the suffix and the Yavam are coming to divide the Nichse Misna, we said they split, because we don't know. If he's the son, he gets it all. If he's not the son, the Yavam gets it all. So he says, the suffix is going to be Chalkin. After that, they divided it. Now the Yavam dies. Now the suffix in the Bnei Yavam are coming to divide the estate of the Yavam. Bnei Yavam, Amri, the sons of Yavam, they say, bring proof that you're our brother, and take it like we said in the previous case, that they could tell him, fly a kite. You have to prove you're our brother, and you can't. Amru Safik, but in this case, the Safik tells him, no. Manav Sheichu, whatever it is that you want, I'll tell you. I have a winning argument. If I'm your brother, okay, then give me a portion with you. And as Rashi explains, if you're going to tell me I already took half of the estate of the one who died, meaning I'm trying to claim I'm your brother, then why did I take half with our father? Why did I take half of our uncle of the dead man's? He says, don't worry, I'll give you back that half. And we'll redivide everything equally with the estate of the first one and of the second one. Because as Rashi says, it must be talking about a case where obviously the Yavam was much wealthier than the one who died. So therefore he's very willingly give you back the half that I took from the estate of the dead man, and I'll split with you equally from our wealthy, billionaire father, the Yavam. So if I'm your brother, give me my portion. Vibar misnana, and if I'm the son of the dead man, havuli palga the palga buchem badai. Then give me the half that your father took from my father. So either way, I want to have more than what I got the first time. You guys want to tell me to go fly a kite because prove that I'm your brother. You're right, I can't prove I'm your brother. But then you're stuck. Either give me back the half that your father took, because he was claiming that I'm his son, or give me a portion, and your father, who's a wealthy guy, I'll give back that half that I took. So either way, you can't just tell me to go take a walk. I'm going to get more than what I originally had. So it's actually machlokes what halacha is. Rabbi Abba Amar, he says, Amar Rav, Kam Dina. What does Kam Dina mean? Kam Dina means, like Rashi explains, after that, they divided the estate of the dead person. So this guy can't go back and start contesting on them. What he's asking in the estate of the Yavam, they can tell him, look, bring a proof. So he's saying, where is it? Bring me a proof. You guys are shoving me away, telling me I'm not the son of the Yavam. Then what's with the court case I had 7 years ago when the miss died, your father took half? No. That's come in. That court case is done already. That's done. You guys divided it, and that was because we didn't know the halacha. Now we're having a court case with us. Go fly a kite. Bring a right that you're our brother. Don't start coming with shtickle. I want to undo. I want to go to the appeals, and appeal that verdict. That's too late already. That's kam dina. He says no hadu dina. He says yes, the verdict could be undone, and then yes, the halacha is going to be that either they have to give him back the half of the dead man's estate, or they have to equally divide him the estate of the Yavam. So it's a machlekes, do we undo it or do we not undo it? Says the Gemara, let's say that this machlekes is dependent on the machlekes between Admon and the Rabban. What's this machlekes? It's not like the Mishnah says Ksubis. Mishnah says, somebody went out of town for many years, he went overseas. Now he lost the path to his field. Meaning, his field was surrounded by other people's fields. And he had a path in one of the directions. Now it's lost. He forgets which direction it was. The whole place has been urbanized, and he doesn't even recognize where was his path, how to get to his field, where he has to get through other people's fields. So what's the halacha? So Ad Malami says, Yelech b'ktsar. So he should take the shortest route, meaning they give him the shortest route, which we're going to explain exactly what does that mean. The sages say, no, you could either pay 100 mana, meaning an exorbitant amount they could extort from him, or you go fly in the air, because you don't know where your path is. You want to get a path, you got to pay good money. Now, we asked under Rabban, what do we Admon's tiny good, because as Rashi explains, the Gemara assumes right now there was one person who was his field surrounded this guy on all sides. We say, look, I have a path going through your field to get to my house. I don't know where it is. Give me the shortest route. Meaning I'll take the least amount of your land, but I definitely have a path through your field. So what's the pshat in the Rabbanan of that they say no, that you got to pay 100 mana or fly in the air. So I'm going to be the rabbi says no, because Hakman Skin, that's an interesting case. We're talking about where there's actually 4 different properties from 4 different people that surround him on the 4 different sides. And each one can reject him and tell him, no, You didn't have it wasn't by me. And they said, it wasn't by me. And it wasn't by me. It wasn't by me. So, sorry, you don't have anyway. So the Gemara says, so what's understanding Amna? How could they have to give him a short path? Each one could push him away and reject it. So Rabbi said the case like this. No, you're right. If it's if it's 4 people who had bought it from 4 previous owners, or let's say it's 4 owners, 4 current owners, who came from one original owner, you're right. Either one of those cases, no one's going to disagree. The Motzamatchle. Of course, everyone would agree to the Rabbanan that you could reject him and say, you didn't have a path by me, you go to the other guy. But keep thinking the machlek between Ad and Nacham was, what happens is some guy comes and he likes the Tom's River area, there's 4 different properties, he buys all those 4 properties. And now but one guy's stuck in between them, and this guy wants to make like a whole estate all around. And the original guy comes back after a year, he doesn't recognize what's going on over here. This guy took over all the 4 properties around him. Now, this is the machlekes. Admin holds, this guy says, look, I got a path through one of your properties. I don't know which one, but you bought from 4 different owners. I had it by one of them. You are the owner of, you're the same owner. I have it somewhere by you. Give me a path. The Rabban hold no. He can tell me this. It says, Ish shaskis, shaskis. If you can be quiet. I won't charge you too much. I'll go easy on you. But if not, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to give back the documents to the owners. I'm going to undo the sale. And you're not going to be able to contend with them, because then it's going to be back to the original 4 owners. And then you won't have any rights as you would have. So be quiet. I'll go easy on you. But that's machlekes Adman and the Chacham. Okay, so the Gemara wants to conclude and says, Lema, let's say that's the machlekes Reb Abba and Rabbi Yirmiyah. Why? Because Reb Abba, who said Kam Dina, that once the case is done, it's done. He's the Amekir Rabbanan. He holds like the Rabbanan, which is we look at what was, which is it was from 4 people. If it was from 4 people, then look, you can't come to me with a taina, I'm the one owner right now. It doesn't make a difference. That was then. Your path was 4 people. You don't know which one. You got to pay if you want to have a path. Rabbi Yirmiyah, who he holds Hadar Dina, he's the Amika Admin. He holds like Admin, which is, no, Admin says, look, right now you're one owner. So even though it was 4 owners, but it gets undone now. Now that you're one owner, it's Hadar Dina. We're going to do it over again. And I say, Mike, you're one person. And there is a pathway you have to give him. Isn't that the same machlekes that we find Admin Chacham? So each one wants to tell you no. I'll tell you, I who says Kam Dina, that says that once the verdict is done, it's done. I can even know like Adman that says that you're one and the Manav Shach have a path by you. How can you say that? Because Ad can come Adman Hasam. Where do we find Adman saying that over there? He tells him a Manav Shach, whatever it is that you want, that you can tell him out. My one path is by you. As Rashi explains, it's a tainas bari. It's a clear claim where he knows what he's claiming from him. So when there's a tainas bari, so then yes, even though I usually hold Kam Dina, he'll be able to go ahead and get a path there. But over here in the case of a Suffolk and the sons of the Yevim, in the assets of the Yevim, after that they really had divided the assets of the dead person. Can you say that? He doesn't know what he's even claiming. In other words, he doesn't know if he's trying to get the other half of the dead man's assets or a portion in the assets of the Yevim. He's coming from both claims. But each one they can tell him Haviraya. So then we'll say Kam Dina, because you're not having a tainas bar, you don't have a clear claim. He could tell you, I know that I said Hadadina, that I said, yeah, you do over the court case again. I could even be like a Rabban who says that no, he doesn't get a derech. Why not? What do you mean? Mamanav Shach? No, because Ad can come to Rabban Hazim. What if Rabban where they say you got to fly in the air or pay the I'm going to charge you? Because you can tell him, meaning this one guy who bought from 4, he has a good claim. He says, look, be quiet, be life. I'm going to give back the document to its original owner. You're not going to be able to litigate with them. So he has a winning claim. Allah will be here by the nichse of the Yavim. Could they say that? There's nothing to give back. That's the reality. And therefore, then, even the Rabbanan would agree that it would be Hadar Dina. So it's not a machlekes that is dependent on machlekes Zamacham. Each one could say, Rabbi and Rabbi that they would hold like that other halacha of that time. Thank you to any time.